Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 20. What are we talking about today?
We are talking about your support system, your community, and how that is just so important for overall health, for if you're running a business and every other area of life.
Yeah, I think it's been a really interesting topic for us personally, and we'll explain why as we get into this episode. How's the week?
Good. It's currently snowing a lot. It's been snowing since last night, and we have a lot of heavy snow to pick up after we record this episode. So,
Yep.
um, it'll be fun, and then we can go in the sauna after
Fun's a,
and warm up.
a word.
Yeah, it's cold out
Yep.
and yeah, so it's here, winter. Otherwise, feeling good overall about just health and the way we've been eating and getting to the gym and walking the dogs and everything. So it's really nice to feel back in a routine after like the holidays.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was tough too because we left the consulting and that did give us a lot of structure. We had meetings that we had to go to and places we had to be. And at the same time, we also walked away from networking events and it was just kind of our own thing. And there was real, nobody other than ourselves that we needed to show up for. So it's been a long process of getting in a routine and then dealing with the holidays and now being back into it. So,
Yeah. And then yesterday we went over my brother and sister-in-law's house and helped them meal prep like freezer meals because they are having their baby at the end of this month. So that was a fun time.
yeah, it was good. Like just really felt helpful.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask them to do the same thing when we have our kid.
How about you?
Yeah, no, things are good. Music's been in a really interesting place for me. Exercise is good, and I'm really like working on my relationship with food too. So one of the things I started doing was if I do overeat, I will still track the calories. For many years when I overate, I would just put like 10,000 calories in my
I don't think you're eating 10,000.
no, but I would put that in my calorie tracker. So it was kind of my way of knowing like didn't track today.
Mhm.
And this just helps me stay much more accountable, but it's also helping with the consistency of like throughout the week of knowing how I did.
Good.
Yeah. So let's get into it. We want to talk about support systems. This has been a really interesting subject for us as entrepreneurs. Um, so why don't you open us up with kind of the point?
Yeah, I wanted to really just talk about like the importance of having a support system in the community that you're involved in for many different areas of your life, whether it's just the general stressors of life or the fun times and recreation that you get to enjoy with friends or family or whoever that may be. And that is really aligned for everyone that is involved in that, like ensuring that the way you are spending your time feels good to you.
Yeah.
It's also really about making sure that support is reciprocated and, knowing that if you are just being asked to fill a role for somebody, if that's not being filled back, or what that friendship or dynamic or relationship means to you, and if that's really been like communicated and expectations have been set as far as what you are going to do for one another and everything like that. So it's not always going to be 50-50, but there really should definitely be still give and take, and nobody should feel like they're being taken advantage of.
Yeah. I think a lot about, I've kind of briefly talked about my friendships on this podcast. And for me, it's that I'm very goal oriented and I am certainly an ambitious person. I understand people have, their own lives and their own goals. And for me, I don't want like acquaintances or a friendship where, we're just always going out drinking and stuff. To me, it's building a true support system that understands those two questions I ask everybody, which is anybody who's going to be my friend, which is what is your dream and are you working on it?
Yeah.
And like you said, it won't always be 50-50. So it's a lot like a relationship. And there's going to be, you've got a friend now that's going through a hard time and you're being there a little more for her. And there's an understanding there.
Yeah, but she also always still, regardless of everything, I'm there to hold space for her. I'm there to help just kind of answer questions for her or give her different perspectives. But then at the end of, her going through whatever she's needing to talk about, she's still always like, okay, well, tell me about you. I still like that is important. That is a part of our friendship still. And even though I have difficult things that I'm going through, like it needs to be reciprocated. And I
Yeah,
appreciate that a lot.
absolutely. And so, I guess the last point there is time, right? We've talked a lot about time and kind of respecting that as a resource that you have that you are allocating toward, yourself or other people. And you are who you spend your time around. It's, like food, you are what you eat. But when it comes to the people you spend your time around, those are the thoughts, the feelings, beliefs, and behaviors that you're taking on in your life.
Yeah, you're always, of course, like having just getting ideas from them, and the way that you guys spend time together is obviously going to, be reflective of what your guys' lifestyles are. Um, Even like the amount of time that you spend together or the way that you connect, like you're gonna notice if it doesn't feel right to you or if that is like exactly what you need and want.
Yeah. And so, for me personally, the context of friendship is supporting each other in our lives as we chase our dreams and work toward our goals and what it is that we want to accomplish. Um, so, what are questions that we can ask to understand, do we have strong support systems, or are the systems and people in our lives supportive of us?
Yeah, I think one of the first ones is like, are they willing to hold space for you and allow you to just speak freely without judgment?
You know?
Because you may have an opinion on how someone is living their life or what, the choices that they're making. But if you support them truly to be who they are and they do the same back for you, then that's going to really create that safe space for them or for you.
Yeah, and it also, makes me think about even the context of leadership in having a team. Like you need to have trust in your team,
Yeah.
and it needs to be an environment where people are willing to share and be themselves.
Yeah. Also, are you really like sharing your goals with those people in your life, your support system? And if you don't, is it because you just like to keep it to yourself because that's, you're kind of a more private person?
Right, which is
Or,
fine.
yeah, absolutely. Or do you keep things to yourself because you might not want to hear their responses or you might feel like you're going to be judged? And do they do the same for you? Like, again, everything has to really be reciprocated.
Yeah, and I also think about people have different kinds of friends. Like they have friends they might share goals with, and then they have friends that go and party with. And so I guess the question there is like, do you need to limit the time with your party friends and focus more on your goals? Or, you know, are your party friends worth having in your life if you can't speak freely and have those real conversations with them?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something to think about is like, are you showing up as your true self, or do you have like different ways that you act around different people?
Mm, yeah.
Um, are the people in your life like really fired up and excited for you and your goals and everything you are working to achieve without judgment or without comparing you to them and vice versa?
And a big one here is fear because
Hmm.
people will project their fear on you. I think, especially in the context of being a business owner or an entrepreneur, is, oh, I hope that works out, or, are you sure that's going to work? Whereas someone who's truly there for you and supports you and believes in you, that's about, okay, what are you doing to get there?
Hmm.
And checking in and following up on that and truly being invested in that person's journey and the progress that they make toward their goal.
Yeah, and just what's important to them and understanding that if it is a business, a side gig or whatever it is, like there may be ups and downs, there may be you might be changing direction in that and being able to share that all along the way with those people and again understand that like or hope that they're not going to be projecting any fear or try to talk you out of something.
Yeah.
Like allowing you to just make your choices and just be there for those choices no matter what.
Yeah, and I kind of think of it like, you know, people love the term power couple, but like what about power friends?
Mhm.
Like your group of friends should all want to see each other succeed and all be rooting for each other's success.
Yeah.
And so something that came up for me here, like thinking about this, is I saw a post a while back that I think articulated it well. And it basically said like if you're playing the comparison game, right, of like how's my friend doing versus how am I doing? Am I where I want to be in life? If you look at it that way, which a lot of people do, right? And it's not the best way to look at it, but if you look at it that way, you guys should each be passing each other
Mm.
constantly. And it should be a cycle of my friend did better than me. And now I'm rooting for them. And I'm happy for them, the progress that they've made. And now I passed my friend. But the idea, I think, you know, first of all, I like the perspective much better of like, I'm competing against myself. But if you're playing the comparison game, it should be this cycle of you guys just constantly rooting for each other. There's no need for anything else. And I think involving anything else in your friendship is kind of just a waste of time.
Yeah. And like, are you growing together and just understanding of where the other person is at as you go through different seasons of life, especially in adulthood? Like, I have two of my closest friends have children already. And as someone who maybe had expectations that I would have children by this age, there have been times where I've like thought about that, but it's not, I'm very careful to make sure I'm not comparing,
Yeah.
but it's just like being there and understanding and also being appreciative of where I am at my journey and supporting them in their new roles of parenthood and
Yeah. Like you're excited and happy for them on that journey, that they're, this newer journey. And we're also like, we go out of our way for our friends to say, like, hey, if you need anything, truly let us know.
yeah.
And it's about showing up how you can for them in their goals and the journey that they're on.
I think that when we're growing up and it's just like that weird time of being in your 20s, and I'm sure, there's other weird times of life, but there's so much change that happens as
Yeah.
individual people, um, in relationships and friendships. And there's so much change that, like, you grow apart from people that you may have never expected, but also society kind of makes you think like you have to be on this very specific path. And then if you're not there and you're seeing your friends there, it can be like weird.
Yeah.
And that comparison can come in if you're not careful and say, like, no, like, that's totally fine that we're in different phases of our lives. And I don't have to be there because I'm here. And like, there's a reason. I think there's always a reason for like where you are in your own journey.
Absolutely. Um, so what does support actually look like? Because I know, us personally, we've launched a lot of business ventures and um I think there's a tendency to think like support is just financial. And you can support business owners, entrepreneurs in many ways besides just buying their product.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of ways to support people. And I actually wanted to mention um, just there was a clip recently of Theo Vaughn and a MMA fighter. And he was asking him about his childhood and he just broke down. He had a very abusive father. And the fighter, I don't remember his name, but he just broke down. I mean, he was crying. And Theo Vaughn just sat there and said, we can just take a minute. We don't have to talk. And I think that's a really important thing to understand is like, you don't need to say some extravagant thing that pulls somebody out of where they're at. You
Hmm.
need to give them the space to take the time they need to take.
Yeah. And just tell them that you are there
Yeah.
for them. even if it's hard and you can't fully understand. Sometimes people will say, like, I understand, even if they don't.
Yeah.
And like that can be hard for someone to hear because it's like, no, you don't. And that's not what I need.
Yeah.
Like, I just need you to know that, like, you're there.
Yeah. So I think in terms of how you show up and support people, it's being able to check in and ask how they're doing on their goals, what kind of progress they're making, how things went, how'd the job interview go, how did the product launch go,
Mhm.
how did your event go? Um, and not judging, like if you feel fear for your friend, that's not your place to share, like that's your own issues, your own beliefs, and your friend has to deal with what they're going through on their own mentally.
Mhm.
So it's just showing up and being there. And also being able to learn from each other is a big one. You know, I think we have to understand like who we are, who we spend our time around. And that's why in, real estate investing, those guys make little circles and clicks and they all go golfing because they're talking about business deals. And it's a different lifestyle. It's finding the circle that supports what your goals are and what you want to be working toward.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are very health conscious, and I truly believe that the people I surround myself with are health conscious as well in their own ways, and we're in different phases of that journey. So I make sure that I'm not judging in any way, but I'm also, helping to educate if they want to hear from me. I know one of our friends, like, kind of told us, like, hey, just teach us, like, we
Yeah.
want to hear from you, and don't think that you're ever like bashing our decisions. Cause I, again, like, I don't want to be like, oh, well, that's actually not a great thing to eat or not a great thing to do.
Well, it's also respecting their choice, right? And this is
Exactly.
our big conversation of balance. Like, I can educate you, but I don't judge you for what you do with that information. It's your choice ultimately afterward to decide
Mhm.
what you do with that information in your life. So I think, like, an example, right? Food ingredients. I don't, bash anyone who eats artificial food dyes. I don't think it's a wise choice, but I educate people and my friends and family on it, but ultimately it's their decision and I respect what they choose.
Yeah.
So how can we support people, whether it's personal development work or their career, if they're an entrepreneur or a business owner, passionpreneur, or they're an employee? What does that look like? So let's start with entrepreneurs, passionpreneurs, and business owners.
Um, I think you kind of said it before. Like, it's about continuing to ask where they are on their own journey, even as completely different from your own, and allowing them to talk about that and just kind of remembering to check in. I think that there's different, like, times and amount of times that we check in with people or that we make plans to see those people if that's an option.
Yeah.
So that's part of, those communicated expectations, but there's always a way that you could make a difference
Yeah.
by
So
just sending a quick text.
right. And like we have people that maybe we talk to them once a year, maybe we talk to them once a month, once a week. So it's different and it varies. I know that in my life there's been times it's been so chaotic that I've like set tasks to make sure I show up for those people. Um and it's finding what works for you. But I think in terms of business owners, entrepreneurs, passionpreneurs, it's so a lot of times people expect this friends and family discount, and Alex Hermosi has posted this and is like, truly supporting someone's business means paying full price, even if you could get a discount. And maybe you can't financially do that. Maybe you need the discount in order to make the purchase, and that's fine. But there's other ways to support. You can share with your network, you can write a review. It takes no time at all. You can share a post.
Mhm.
And I've also found, I don't know if you feel this way too, but personally, I feel like the people who are willing to support small business owners are usually small business owners themselves. I feel like people who aren't in that realm don't have as much appreciation for what goes into building a brand. And I think it's kind of this wishful thinking of like, oh, it costs $0 to support a small business. And like people say that, but then when it comes to like, you know, I don't know. We've done feedback where it was like, give me a one-word answer and not even that. So I think really business owners, passionpreneurs, they relate to each other because we're all on a similar journey.
Yeah, we definitely understand and have maybe been there before in a different capacity, and it's doing what you can to show support and help them continue growing
Yeah.
without necessarily having to make a monetary like contribution.
Yeah. So someone who doesn't have a business or a side gig, I mean, it could be many things. I think a lot of about career, and helping someone polish their resume. Or I've had friends where I've helped them kind of figure out like, what do you want to pursue? Um,
Or maybe you're making connections with, other people for them if there's something that they're trying to go for in their career, and someone who's, in that job or in that space, and
yeah. So it's
making connections is huge.
absolutely like someone trying to change careers or go to a different company. If you know someone that they can have a 30-minute call to meet and get their foot in the door, that's a huge help to that person. Um, or even just checking in, if they had a big presentation coming up or something like that. There's so many ways that you can do this and support someone without needing to give them money.
Mhm.
So last is we kind of touched on this, but supporting someone who's hurting, you don't need to look for the right thing to say. Your presence is enough. And a lot of times silence is going to be better than trying to fill the space to console them.
I think sometimes it's important to even ask, like, what is it that you need?
Yeah.
Do you just need me to listen and be here because I can do that? Or do you need me to try to offer advice or give you different perspectives? Do you just need me to give you a hug? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm going through it now in my family with someone who, just passed away, and it's it's me kind of trying to feel out like what does that family member that was close to him need?
mhm,
And how can I be there for that person?
yeah.
So, I think support systems are tricky because it's really, something that I've said a lot that I know not a lot of people agree with, but I would rather walk alone than walk with 5 idiots?
Mhm.
So, you got to find your people. And if you don't have your people, then work on yourself until then.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting journey as you, go from like high school and college and having a whole big group of friends. And if you're someone who like to go out a lot or go to parties and stuff, and then if like you phase out of that, like which of your friends did you keep? Like
Yeah.
I have multiple friends who I've been friends with for 10 years or more. And we kind of went through all of those phases together and are now like have stepped away from that completely. And I'm so grateful to be growing in the same kind of way with those people. But also in that, I have lost touch with other friends, and that's okay. That's just we're just not on the same journey, but I support them and love them from afar, and like I just there's not enough time in the day to try to keep up with every single person that you've ever had some sort of connection with. So
Yeah.
it's just understanding that you guys have grown apart and not having like any negativity towards that.
Right. Right. And, I also think about like business ventures that we've launched where we've been surprised. I think we've done it a few times now. We've launched quite a few things, and um I think it's always been really interesting. A lot of people have an expectation of my friends and family. My friends and family are going to do this. My friends and family. It's usually not the people closest to you that are really going to go out of their way. And I think in my personal experience, it's kind of been like my family sees it as they know me and they have this image of me of I guess who I've been, and that there's not a lot to learn there. But we've gotten most support from acquaintances, from people who were kind of distant in our network. Someone that one coworker from many years ago, or someone who, I don't know, we met at a networking event, or people from my MMA training. Like, it's been scattered, but I think a lot of people set themselves up for disappointment when they launch a business or, some sort of venture, because they have a very high expectation of the people that know them.
Yeah, I think it's important to not be setting expectations and setting yourself up to be disappointed. Like, just you can have hope that certain people that you want to do something for you will do that, or maybe you have to ask them directly.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point is when you have expectations in your network and your support system, they need to be communicated because everyone needs to be on the same page in order to support each other.
Right.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it for today.
All right. Friendly reminder, this podcast is sponsored by New Moon Apparel. That's our Zen motivation and moon themed clothing line. You can shop designs at newmoonapparel.com. And if you haven't already, you can access our workbook and our balanced wellness community at newmoonholisticlife.com/goals. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.